Welcome to Spring LIB.
All right, so first let's talk about what an algae bloom is. It's basically when it's usually caused by an increase in nutrients in a body of water, oftentimes phosphates. Basically, these nutrients are things that algae can feed off of and thrive off of, and so it will lead to a proliferation of them, and they sort of create this covering on the top of the body of water. And what this does at first is it actually, this algae will block the sun coming in. So it can't penetrate into the ocean, into the lake or ocean or sea or body of water, what have you. Meaning nothing below it is getting light energy. So if there are photoplankton or seaweed or like plants below the surface, they're not getting the energy they need, so they're going to die off. And then so will anything that's feeding off of them. Now, what happens when the algae bloom actually uh, sort of consumes all of the nutrients that it was thriving off of, it will die off. And as it's dying off, while it is, opening up the surface to the sunlight, the process of decaying leads to oxidation, and that consumes the oxygen that's dissolved in the water itself, which is used by organisms who need oxygen to, get their oxygen, basically. So the dead algae blooms are also dangerous because they decrease oxygen levels in the water, which can be dangerous to life. So now that we've kind of gone over the effects of algae blooms, our answer choices kind of are pretty straightforward based on that. We can read through them and just kind of double check our answers, but uh, excuse me. My bad. I think option A, which tells us, that the not only will, photosynthetic animals or organisms first be harmed, things that feed off of them will also be, and then when they die, there will be changes to the water itself. A change in oxygen levels also changes the pH too, so that fits in line with option A. So A looks like it's pretty good for our answer choice, but let's read through the others just to make sure, we didn't miss anything. B doesn't really make that much sense. Non-photosynthetic organisms don't need light to grow. I mean, they need the photosynthetic organisms in order to survive, but that's not fully correct. So we can probably throw that out already based on the first answer. Option C, the first part is, correct. It makes sense as they die, but in this case, it tells us that carbon dioxide will be depleted. What you need to remember about the decomposition process is that it will use up oxygen. Oxygen is part of the oxidation process, and that drives decomposition and decay. So not carbon dioxide. We can go ahead and cross that out too. And D is once again the opening statement doesn't really make sense in terms of the real world situation. So I think it's safe to say that A is our correct answer.